Welcome everyone to the senseFly Academy. Today's topic is about eMotion 3.3.1, the new release. We're going to cover all the new features, corridor mapping, new maps, albris updates, etc. I am Andrea, the training manager, and today I have with me James Clark from the support team in the US and Alexis Roze, the product manager of eMotion. So, in eMotion 3.3.1, Alexis will tell us all about the new background layers, corridor mapping, custom settings of senseFly S.O.D.A, automatic reconnection, go-to waypoint, flight data manager, and even more. Then I'll be talking about some albris updates, propellers, image, and speed intervals that were improved lately. And with this, I hand over to Alexis.
Thanks, Andrea, for the presentation. Hello, everyone. So to reintroduce myself, I'm Alexis Roze. I'm the product manager for the eMotion software. And I'm happy today to present you the new feature that we brought with the latest version of eMotion 3.3.1. So to start this presentation, I will first focus on the new background layers that are in the latest version. So as you can see on my slide, there is on the one side new background maps, the elevation color map that is back, and also a brand new airspace layer from AirMap. So in eMotion, I will just create a mission just to open and have a look at the background maps. And as you can see now from the drop-down menu of the background maps, you have a new map called Digital Globe Satellites. So you can easily switch between the maps by clicking on them. And as you can see, the Digital Globe Satellites is a satellite imagery background map. It has a pretty good worldwide coverage. It can be pretty useful in some remote areas around the world. So it makes the offer of background maps even more complete in the eMotion 3 software. We also added the new Mapbox satellites layer, which is from the same source as the Mapbox Road, but just a satellite imagery. So if from the same drop-down menu, if I click on Mapbox satellites, I just get a new layer. On the elevation data side, we brought back a nice feature, which is the elevation data layer. We had it in eMotion 2, and we decided to bring it back to eMotion 3. And you can display it from the toolbar. In the toolbar, you have a Show Hide Layers button. And when you click it, by default, you have this elevation color map option. When you select it, you can see that now your background map is covered by another layer, a layer that is representing the elevation of the extent of your screen. So the different color, you can see that there is a color scale with a legend in the bottom right-hand corner here under my mouse. And when you just move somewhere else, you can easily, by clicking on this button, you can easily auto-adjust the elevation color scale. I just click and I get a new elevation color scale for a better display. You can also change the transparency of this layer by clicking on the transparency button, and you can go from an opacity of 0% to 1%. So let's click 100%, sorry, and there you go, you just have this layer. To deactivate this layer, it's kind of the same workflow. You just go in the Show Hide Layers, and then you just unselect it. So this layer is pretty useful to display, especially in 2D, to have a nice, to have a pretty clear knowledge of what's the terrain around your flight, and it can help for flight planning. Also, in the latest version of eMotion 3, we decided to have new layers regarding airspace. We know that airspace are pretty important. It's a pretty important component of the regulations nowadays. And we decided to partner with AirMap, which is actually an American company that is that gathers data around the world about airspaces, and that allow drone manufacturers, for example, like us, to display them through their flight planning software to help people to know where they're flying and if they're in some restricted area, for example. So this air map layers, these two air map layers actually, so we decided to split the air map layers in two different layers, and they are accessible through the same show and hide layers button. But before this, I'm going to place my working area because air map layers are based on the working area placement. So right now, you can't display air map layers without having the working area, because we'll have a buffer of 5 kilometers around the working area to display these airspace layers. So I place my working area as an example, I place it, and then I activate my air map layers from the show hide layers button. So you can see, as I said right before, that we split it in two different layers, one for airport, heliports, control airspace, special use airspace, and temporary flight restrictions, and another one for school, hospital, wildfire, park, power plants, and prisons. So if I activate the first one, you can see, for example, that my working area is right within the 5 kilometers of an airport, which is, I mean, here in Switzerland, the example is in Switzerland, and the regulation is we have a special regulation within 5 kilometers around airports. You can see that there is different color for different type of airspaces, and you can also see, in my case, you can also click on the labels just to better display airspaces. In some cases, you have many airspaces overlaying each other, so this tool can be good just to differentiate different airspaces. So you can see there's the airport here, and also if I zoom in here, there's another special use airspace around this airport. If I move my working area to another place, so by clicking on the place working area button, I place my working area, and I can see that my airspace the layer has just changed, and you can see that right now we close to another airport, which is the Lausanne airport, and I can also click on it just to make sure that I'm right within the zone. This airspace layer requires an internet connection, because we get the data from the AirMap service, but we also, once you did it, we also store these AirMap layers, and so you can have them on site if you loaded them before. You can also reload them at any time by clicking on your bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You have an AirMap label, and you can click refresh, and the refresh button allows to refresh the airspace layers. For example, if you have temporary flight restrictions coming, then you can have them. Just make sure that you refresh if it's been a long time that you haven't refreshed it. Last thing about background layers, we added nice options in the option tab here, option panel, and in the map and elevation section, we added a reload map data. It means that for any reason, for example, if you have a problem with internet connection and you had a problem while loading the background map or while loading the 3D digital surface model, you can click reload, and by clicking reload here, you can see that we reload again the entire background map data just to make sure that all the faulty tiles, for example, are reloaded well. Let's go back to the presentation and let's move on with the corridor mapping. So that's one of the main topic today. Actually, we did 2 slides about the corridor mapping. I just wanted to present first the S.O.D.A corridor, the senseFly S.O.D.A corridor camera. It is actually a S.O.D.A camera, so the hardware of the camera is the same as a S.O.D.A camera, standard S.O.D.A camera, but the difference is the positioning of the camera within the payload bay, meaning that the senseFly S.O.D.A corridor is in portrait formats, so it has a 90 degrees different of orientation compared to the standard S.O.D.A camera, and this orientation allows the senseFly users to go down to 1.5 centimeters of ground sampling distance with a very low overlap, I would say 60%. And also it allows people in such cases of when you want to plan and fly the corridor to take much less pictures. For example, in the case that you see on the slide, you have 30% fewer images than with a standard camera with a standard orientation. It requires, so if you already own a standard S.O.D.A camera, it requires a special adapter, so you can get the special adapter that will fit in your drone. To use this senseFly S.O.D.A camera, you just have, so I'll go back to my welcome screen to create a new mission. And before creating a new mission, when you select the hardware, so you select your drone, obviously, but you also select the camera. And instead of S.O.D.A, you can see here that you have a S.O.D.A corridor that can be selected. So now I have both camera for my mission, and then I can create my mission. In addition to this S.O.D.A corridor camera, we added a new mission block, which is called corridor mapping. So to use the new senseFly S.O.D.A corridor camera, the corridor mapping block is the perfect tool to save time and to map faster with less pictures corridors. So the only thing that you have to set, a bit like horizontal mapping, but we added a few parameters that are specific to the corridor mapping, which is the width and obviously the resolution. Let me show you on Emotion how you can plan such a corridor. So I create the mission, I just turn off my air map layers, I create the mission, and I go to my mission blocks tab, and here, when I add a new mission block, I just add a new corridor mapping block. Once I select the corridor mapping, I just have to place the sections of this corridor mapping on the map. So I just click first point, I create my first section, then my second section, just following the path of my corridor. To finish my corridor, I just either right-click or push the escape key of my keyboard. So you can see here that if I zoom in, you can see that there is a drop area on the elevation data representing the corridor. In the block parameter, you can select the width here. So by default, it's 30 meters, and you can obviously select the resolution. In the map display, you can easily change things within the corridor mapping block. So for example, you can select one handle and just change the path of the corridor. You can also add new section within the existing sections by clicking on the side and easily move this handle. There is some arrows at the beginning of the corridor mapping, so just to indicate where the corridor mapping starts. So you can see that the starting arrows. Also, there is some advanced features such as creating a corridor mapping with a single flight line here. And also you can change the width from every single section by clicking on the section and changing the width in the section. Now let's get back to the presentation on a different topic, which is the parameters, the new custom parameters of the S.O.D.A camera. In the latest version of Emotion 3.3.1, users are now able to change a few settings and adapt in case of some specific environment. They can adapt the camera settings to this specific environment. Just to be clear, in 99% of cases, the default settings are good enough, but you might want to change a few things just to adapt the camera to about your environment. In Emotion, so just to show you an example, I just have to connect a simulator just to make the drone tab appear. So I click on Connect button and I start a simulator of the EB+. So right now, I have my simulator here. I can easily place my start and home from the notification in the bottom left-hand corner. And right now I can see that I have another notification that my block is outside of working area, so I can easily increase my working area size. Back to the S.O.D.A settings, so it's in the drone tab on the right side, and you can go to the camera tab. In the camera tab, you can see that for this camera model, so S.O.D.A, you can see a section about camera settings. So these new settings are all customizable. You can select the picture format from JPEG to RAW format as well. You can select the white balancing, daylight, cloudy, or shady. You can also change the exposure time, the ISO max, and the exposure bias. Once you played with the sliders and you want to change the default settings, you can save these settings by clicking on the specific button, the Save as Custom Settings, and you will have to load these custom settings whenever you want to use them. If you're not sure about your settings, you can still restore the factory settings. The go-to action within a mission block. So we had a lot of requests from people saying that they want sometimes to either skip one part of the mission, or they want to go back to a specific waypoint of the mission. And so to do this, we decided to make people able to change the flight path from the drone and directly select the waypoint they want the drone to go to. You have two options. When you right-click on one waypoint, you have two options. Either the go to waypoint high, which the drone will do the transition at its current altitude, or at the next waypoint altitude if it's higher. This is the safe way, just to make sure that you go the higher altitude possible between your position and the next waypoint. On the other side, you have the go to waypoint direct, and this go to waypoint direct will change the altitude during transition, meaning that the drone will target directly the waypoint, meaning that if the waypoint is higher than the drone's current position, it will climb while transiting to this waypoint. To show you an example on emotion, I will, for example, I will create a new block, horizontal mapping. I put the new block here. I will assign this new block and I will start my simulator. I will take off. So in the simulator section, I just simulate the takeoff. So the drone is taking off now, and to use these go-to waypoint options, you need the drone to be flying. So you can use it, obviously you can use it when the drone is on ground. When you start flying, as you can see on my laptop, I go for 2D mode. When you see the drone flying, you can easily select the block by clicking on the block and show waypoints. So if you want to use the go to waypoint option, you have to click show waypoint. After clicking show waypoint, I see my waypoints are now displayed on the map, and I can right click on any waypoint and go, for example, for go to waypoint direct. You can see that after clicking this option, the drone will go towards this specific waypoint and continue its mission. So it means that in terms of mission block, as you can see here in the mission block in progress, you can see that the old progress, the old start of the mission, the first waypoints of the mission are considered as already flown by emotion. Obviously, you can at any time you can do this action multiple times in a row. So you can show waypoint again, and you can click on any waypoint, and you can click go high for example, and it will go to the selected waypoint. This was the main feature that we brought in Emotion 3.3.1, but we also add a few cool new minor, I would say minor features, such as, for example, the automatic reconnection, meaning that when your drone has landed and you still want to finish the mission, so for example, you placed an horizontal mapping block that were too big for one single flight, then now when you swap the battery with your drone, you don't need to click disconnect because the drone will automatically reconnect to Emotion. Also, we added the use of the space bar of your keyboard to abort a landing. So right now, before we just had the option with the command bar here, as you can see on my screen, but also right now you can press the space bar and it will abort the landing in the landing phase. We also added 50 audible alerts. So it means that you can spend less time on the screen, and for example, especially for warnings, we added the description of the warning, so you will know whenever you have a warning now what kind of warning you will have with the voice. Back to S.O.D.A camera, we also added a specific check on the lens cap. You know that the S.O.D.A camera has a lens cap by default on it, and if you forget to remove it when flying, you will, the S.O.D.A camera is able to have a check on the light, the incoming light of the camera, and it will tell you with a warning that the lens cap is still on. On another topic, something that has been requested by a lot of users is the possibility to display and also enter for RTK users, enter coordinates in degrees, minutes, seconds instead of decimal degrees. So to have all Emotion coordinates displayed in degrees, minutes, seconds, you can click in Option, Local Preferences, and you can click here, degrees, minutes, seconds. So you can check this box. And last thing, but not the least thing, we increased the number of blocks that you can have in one mission. So now you can go up to 50 blocks. So right now, we'll now disconnect my drone. And I will just stop here a bit to give you two reminders, to talk about two reminders. First of all, I will first close my mission and create a new mission to show you the notification that is right there, right here in the bottom left-hand corner. You have the start home working area missing. This notification is pretty useful when you connect your drone before planning the mission. So for example, you're on site and you connect your drone before flying your mission. It's pretty easy to place everything home start based on your drone position. So in the action column, you can see here, there's a target button and you can automatically set the missing working area, start or home waypoints. I click it and you can see that the working area, the home waypoint and the start waypoint are automatically set based on the drone position. Also, a quick reminder about the mission progress. You can see when you have a mission block, when you create a mission block, I will create again a mission block, and when you create a mission block, you can see here that there is the mission progress, and when you fly one block and you land before the end of the mission block, Emotion 3 is able to store this progress, and on the next flight it will be able to restart from the very last waypoint in the progress. All right, now something more about the structure of the mission itself, well, of the drone itself. Actually, we decided to go from the BBX file. I don't know if you noticed lately after updating your emotion software, but we decided to go from BBX file to BB3 file for the new flight log formats. So this new format is more complete than the BBX file. And this BB3 file is obviously not compatible with the older version of Emotion, but now BBX files are not compatible with the new flight data manager. It means that if you still have BBX flight log to process after updating your Emotion software, you have on my screen you have the link to download an external software for the new flight data manager for BBX. It means that even if you have older flight, you will still be able to go through the flight data manager to process, for example, to geotag your images and create, for example, Pix4D projects. Also, the old EFL file that was in My Documents Emotion Logs is replaced by a BB3 file, which is a lighter version of the BB3 file that is on the drone. Last feature on the structure side is the mission sharing. So we had few requests about the mission sharing. People might get confused about the mission file. So just to clarify about the mission file, here, when you load a new mission, so you can either load the new mission from the recent mission or the favorites, but you can also load older missions from the load mission section. And you can see now that all the mission files are stored in different folders. So Emotion is expecting a .mis3 file. So within all this folder, you can find, oh, that's a bad example, but you can find, for example, a .mis3 file, and you can easily open it. If you want to share this mission file with, for example, a colleague or someone else, you better share the old folder, because this folder might contain other files that can be useful, for example, for drone synchronization or for HGK parameters. So if you want to share with someone else, you better share the old folder, but the original mission file is still the .mis3 file. That's all for me, and I'll hand over to Andrea for the albris part.
Thank you, Alexis, for all those updates. There are actually some really great features in there, and I hope every one of you is going to use them a lot. Now, about albris. There were some changes. You have seen the propellers. So if you change your propellers now, don't fly with Emotion X anymore. They really only work with Emotion 3. The stability has been improved in GNSS mode and also in no GNSS mode, and the controller has been simplified and made more robust. In terms of image quality, we have now a better and faster exposure strategy, as well as exposure times and automatic white balance have been better integrated, as well as tone curve and pedestal, which you can see on those two images. So that was before, and now you can see a clear difference. It's much sharper, more detail in the image, which of course is a big help when you're reconstructing and processing the data set. Autophoto trigger. The minimum picture interval before was at 5 seconds. Now we're down to 3 seconds, which allows us much faster interactive inspection and high detail 3D modeling. Means we can also do more flight distance with one battery, as well as we are more flexible in terms of the overlap. In this chart here, you can see that if we're, for example, at 3 meters from a vertical surface, we can now fly at 0.2 meters per second and still generate enough overlap, which makes us already twice as fast than before in Emotion X. Also, on the automatic missions, we changed a couple of things and made, for example, the horizontal map flying much better in terms of the flight lines that we optimized, and therefore we also better achieved the parameter of the area. One more thing that I wanted to add, it's not new, but maybe it got lost somewhere. There is a simulator for albris in Emotion 3, and you can actually fly there in interactive mode. So you can connect your senseFly controller and you fly your drone around in the 3D view of the map. Of course, you don't get the nice image feedback, but it really will help you to get familiar with the controls on the senseFly controller. Thank you for joining senseFly Academy session today. Was a pleasure to have you around and hope to see you around on the next one again. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.